Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, a WNBA podcast where every episode we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA. We're your hosts, John and Kristen Barber, and today we're back to talk about the goings-on around the first 10 or so days of the WNBA. We're on an off day. We're on a holiday. It's Memorial Day as we're recording this, and we've got standings to look at. We've got surprising team movements up and down the board. We've got a number of injuries around the league to discuss. And we also had the pleasure of attending the launch of Dawn Staley's book the other night. So we're going to talk about that at the end of the show. But before we get into all of these WNBA deets, Kristen, how are you doing?
Hey, John, I'm great. We just finished watching the 10-minute recaps for all three of the games that were on last night.
The 6 p.m. games,
because
Eastern.
We unfortunately could not watch them in real time. And first of all, incredible feature on League Pass.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not taking advantage of just watching these super quick game recaps, do it. It really just like gives you a snapshot of what happens in the game.
Right.
And it's like none of the boring.
But it cuts out all the free throws.
Right. You're
my
not
favorite
seeing
part.
the fouls. You're not seeing the timeouts. It's great.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to get back into talking about all of this.
Yes, it is. It has been a very fun start to the season. I will say up front, I am annoyed that very often there are 3 games scheduled at the exact same time. We've talked about this online on our Bluesky. If you'd like to follow us on Bluesky, you could do so at ATBPod. Also, we're there on Instagram. And if you'd like to send us an email, you can do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com. But a lot of people have been very vocal online about just the WNBA's weird scheduling. Like if these 3 games at the same time are all only available on League Pass, then it's impossible for me to do it. Now, I know that on the computer, League Pass has a feature where you can multi-screen, but I want to watch it on the TV, or I'm away from my computer, so I have to watch it on my phone. So it's like, what the heck am I supposed to do other than follow up by watching these 10-minute recaps or watch the full game? If I had infinite time, that's what I would do. But, right now we're just in the remembering how to absorb all of this content. Because in the off season, it was easier with Unrivaled. And, we take a little break and now it's like, oh, we've got 13 teams that are all doing different things every day. So honestly, it's nice to have a breather of a day today to sort of take stock of everything and see where things are as we head into really week 2 of the WNBA season.
I just want to say, I tend to go into like understanding our annoyances by trying to understand like why it is how it is.
Sure.
Why would Kathy schedule all 3 of these games at the same time?
Why?
Was there an NBA game at 8?
Yes, there was a playoff game.
That I'm sure is playing into it.
Sure. Almost definitely.
Almost definitely. There's, the NBA has some say over when the W games are.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably is partly why there weren't any later games.
Sure. That's fair. But you could have staggered them by a half an hour.
Yes.
Or an hour.
Correct.
Like that would have been fine. You could have done 8. You could have done 6, 7, 8. Or
well, they're not doing 8.
6, 6:30, 7 o'clock. The game started at 8:30. The NBA game.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. Like, come on.
No, I completely agree that it's crazy. And like, because none of them were nationally televised, you can have this game whenever the heck you want.
Correct. Right.
So that is very frustrating. But I do hope that once the NBA is done, then the games will be different times. I'm
right.
sure we can look that up on the schedule. I'm not doing that right now.
Correct.
I think that's part of it.
Right. Yep. It's tough to go head to head with the MNBA, as the people say. But yes, understand. It's just frustrating. It's annoying to try to keep up with everything, but we're past that. Let's take stock of where things lie after 11 days of action, or 10, I should say 10 days of action. This is the 11th day of the season. I think there's a lot we're going to learn now. And most teams have only played 4 games. Golden State and Chicago have played 3 games.
And New York
as well. And Atlanta's played 5 games.
Yes, some teams have played 5.
Correct. And as Washington as well, and LA as well. So yeah, let's go bottom up. Let's start with the defeated teams, the teams that have yet to come out with a win here. We have Chicago at 0-3. We've got Dallas at 0-4, and we've got Connecticut at 0-4. Any big takeaways, big picture takeaways from how these teams are performing?
Yeah, I definitely am not particularly surprised by Connecticut. Dallas, I would have, hoped that they could gel a little better so far, but I don't think it's completely unexpected. Like last year, it took Caitlin and the Fever a long time to start winning games. The Wings played the Lynx twice. And the Storm.
Right. So
once.
They had a tough start.
A very hard schedule to start with. So I am hoping, and Paige has played very well so far. I think other players have not, but they're working it out. So hopes are, it's going up for the Wings, I think. But it is just, kind of defeating knowing, you're starting 0-4.
Right. I mean, if Enrique shot a little bit better, they win one of these games at the very least.
Like the dream game they could have perhaps won. The Sky is an issue.
Yeah.
The Sky starting 0-3, they played the Fever, the Liberty, and the Sparks. I wouldn't expect them to have beaten the Fever or the Liberty, but I would have definitely expected them to beat the Sparks.
Yes.
So that was a kind of, issue of a game yesterday.
Now, you had them finishing better than the Sparks. I had the Sparks finishing better than them. So to me, I would expect the Sparks to come out with a win here. And it was also in LA. So
yeah, true.
Important to note there. But what we were hoping to see was a bit more competitive of a Chicago game, because they did get so badly beaten in the first 2 games of the year. And, the game was competitive in early into the fourth quarter, but LA sort of stretched the lead. I forget, it was probably a 13-point win for LA if you have the scores. 14. So really, like, Chicago didn't have hold of it down to the wire like I might have hoped. I was kind of hoping this would be like a 2-point game or a 5-point game, but still to be, another double-digit loss kind of feels bad for Chicago. And, there's a lot of reasons that this could be the case. Obviously, new coaching, new players. Was the Ariel Atkins trade as good for the team right off the bat? It sounds like there's still a lot of growing pains to figure out. But yeah, that's just I think that's been the main disappointment at the start of the season, because there were so many people that were so high on Chicago. Now they have 41 games to play. So not writing them off at all.
No.
But it's just a little tough to see, Angels offensive struggles and, Camilla trying to figure out what year 2 looks like for her as well.
Yeah, it's definitely, we will see. Obviously, these standings will normalize more. I would say, moving up, 10 and 9 is the Mystics and the Sparks, probably where I expect them to be. In 8th place is the Aces.
Yeah.
And I think this is the most shocking and most probably upsetting, whatever sense.
Sure.
So far. per Alexa Filippo, this 2-2 start is the first time since 2021 that the Aces are starting without a winning record through the first 4 games.
I saw that. That was kind of a weird stat, because it's like they're not.
Why?
It's not a losing record. It's just it's a tied record through 4 games. Like, it kind of seems like, oh, big red flag, but it's like,
Okay.
yeah, they went 2-2.
But like, if you are trying to win a championship and there are undefeated teams here, you're not competing with them so far.
Right. I mean, who did they drop? They dropped to the Storm yesterday.
Big loss.
A big loss to the Storm yesterday, and they dropped their opener to New York. So,
Yeah.
they're losing. They lost. New York is undefeated right now and looks like a very, very good team. And the Storm, I would say, was a surprise, even though that game was in Seattle as well. But the Storm hung 102 points on them. And, they were hitting every shot. This could have just been one of the days where Seattle's hitting like crazy. They were over 60% field goal percentage. But there are moments where it still looks like the Aces have a tough time figuring out what they do. And we've said that before in recent discussions about the Aces. Chelsea hasn't been playing the level of basketball that we watched her played over the last 3 months in Unrivaled. And, Asia had a tough day yesterday. It's rare to see Asia have a tough day, but she had a tough day. And, you credit to Seattle's bigs.
Absolutely credit to Seattle's bigs. They have so many of them. And, at any given time, one of them, 2 of them are there defending Asia. I think they defended Asia incredibly well yesterday. And on the flip side, the Aces guards are not able to defend the number of bigs that Seattle has. So we'll see what happens with the Aces. I expect them to rise from this 8th spot.
Yeah.
But it is just, another situation where like last year, they're starting off slow, and will they be able to catch up?
Right. And their game is going to be predicated on this starting 5 dominating teams, because the depth issues are apparent. They clearly have problems with their bench, and they're going to need to work through that. I would hope to maybe see some Elizabeth Kitley thrown in a little bit more, maybe in replacement of Kia Stokes, at least earlier in a game. But there are a couple things that Becky Hammon and co can pull to try to change things up in Las Vegas. But, losing to good teams happens. So we continue up the standings, and you have Indiana here at 2-2 as well with Vegas. You have Atlanta at 3-2, and you have the Golden State Valkyries, who have only played 3 games but are 2-1. So where should we start out of that little pack of players? We've seen the Atlanta Dream the most.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've talked about the Atlanta Dream's upside probably the most of these 3 teams. So where do you want to get into?
Well, I think this, like, between the Dream and the Fever, they did a home and home, which is just like annoying. That is something I have a problem with in the schedule.
So early
playing a team back to back. Like, you're not giving them any chance to watch the tape, revisit what you did wrong, and like grow and learn. It's like, no, I'm immediately playing you again. That is, if there's this problem I have with the schedule, it's that. So that happened with the Dream and the Fever. They split that. So it kind of brought them both down.
Right.
In the standings. But I expect the Fever to rise. I think the Dream, are probably right where we'll see them. I think Valkyries fans out there, savor this moment.
V's up
right now. The Valkyries are in 5th place. Not sure how much longer that will be the case.
Correct.
The Valkyries played the Sparks, the Mystics, the Sparks twice, and the Mystics.
Right. So they split with the Sparks, and they beat the Mystics.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
which was good on them for sure. A great game.
Right. But early in the week last week, people were saying, "Oh, the Mystics, so for real, 2-0, and then they lose 3 in a row." So, very likely scenario where the similar thing happens to the Valkyries, who are just ended up punching above their weight a little bit. The Sparks can be susceptible to losing any given day if they don't shoot the ball well. So it's not like a stunner that they beat the Sparks and you're beating the Mystics. Like it's got to be exciting though for Golden State to get 2 early wins at home too. I believe they were both home games, which is exciting for the fans that have clearly shown out in full force for Golden State.
Well, you're right, John. I will say I have a cute little colorful graph here of average attendance for each team.
Ooh.
Early in the season. It's only taking into account one Mystics game, but there is still, you can see the difference. The Golden State Valkyries are in first place, average attendance with over 18,000 fans.
Very good.
So that's the fans fueling this team.
Sure.
And I just love that. I just love how much this shows how excited cities are to get a team.
Yeah.
It's so promising. It's just, I love to see it from Golden State. I hope we see similar trends from Portland, from Toronto, and like it can show the W that these new cities that have interest, that want a team, they're serious about it.
Right. It's not going to be like the other times you've expanded in the past where it dwindles.
Right.
At least you don't hope that. But Golden State is a very rabid fan base as far as the NBA is concerned. So clearly that is working out here at Chase, which is great. It's great to see.
So back to the standings, the top 4, Mercury, Storm, Liberty, Lynx. The Lynx and the Liberty are undefeated right now, 4-0 and 3-0. And then the Seattle Storm and the Mercury are sitting at 3-1.
I'll start at the top here because Minnesota's 4-0. They should probably be 3-1 because the other night there was a very wild game between Connecticut and Minnesota in Minnesota, where it was down to the last 5 minutes. I think it was 5:20, where Connecticut's up by 15, and it was a lot of push and pull trying for Minnesota to try to get back, but Connecticut just stretched it again, and it looked like one of those nights where Minnesota didn't have their shot. And I said, sometimes you lose, but it was interesting to see that it was Connecticut that was potentially going to hand them their first loss. And then over that time period toward the end of the game, I believe Minnesota went on a 23-2 run, stole the game. You had Natisha Heidemann just like right when it counted, right when it was tied, hit a huge 3, make another 2, and then it was done for Minnesota. They took what was theirs and they beat Connecticut. And I was in that moment when we were watching this game in the car driving to the beach, I was saying, wow, the league is really competitive this year. If Connecticut can take Minnesota and win in Minnesota. Now, that wasn't the case, but I still think the idea is there that right now, these teams are all playing really hard, really solid basketball across the board. And that speaks to the amount of parity in the league, that it's not apparent who the worst teams are in the league right this second. Because you have Golden State in the 5 spot. Golden State has 2 wins. They were supposed to win 8 games on the season. That's what Vegas put them at. And now they're supposed to win 12 games. So complete, way underestimated. And Connecticut, has a lot of problems. And I do think they're going to end up at the bottom there. But Tina and Marina and Sanaya and Anissa, they're coming out and they're hooping. And that makes the league fun to watch. So we appreciate them for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also good to see that Minnesota, after a gut check can be like, yeah, no, we're just going to turn it on. Back burners, take home the win.
Yeah. I mean, I would have been so vocal about Kayla McBride is so important to this team if they had ended up losing. Of course she is. She, again, didn't play in this game, but she was there, but she didn't play. So hopefully she plays the next game this upcoming week. We were driving, John said we were driving to the beach in that game. We had to stop at a McDonald's. It was right after.
We were really hungry.
It was right after we were at the Dawn Staley book tour.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have dinner. And we got out of the car, walked into the McDonald's, and the Sun was winning by 20 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
We come out of the McDonald's and like they're losing. I was like, what? Yeah. What happened while you were in this McDonald's?
There's like a minute to go. What like you completely took your foot off the gas.
Right. Yeah. So that was like rough for the Sun, but a great game the first, mostly 4 quarters. But you're right. The league is very competitive. It's very exciting time to watch.
Yeah. Do you anything else to say about like the Liberty or Seattle or Phoenix?
I mean,
up at the top here.
I said it after the first win that the Mercury had against the Storm that I was honestly shocked that they won that game. I remain shocked that they beat the Storm. Although they did lose to the Storm in their next game. But I guess, they beat the Mystics and they beat the Sparks. So perhaps it's not as shocking of a standing for the Mercury as I thought. But still, like, beating the Storm to begin with was a really good win. Yeah. They're rookies who no one knew really coming into this because they were all undrafted. They were incredibly questionable, but they have really shown that, they are valuable to the team. Yeah. So I'm excited to watch the Mercury. I'm excited for when Kalia Copper comes back because that will really show how the team is. Right. AT and Satu Sabali are just doing incredible right now.
Playing good hoops.
So I'm like all in on the Mercury right now, keeping my eyes on them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, these rookies that you talk about, Lexi Held, Monique Akoa Makani, Catherine Westbeld, Katya Laxa. There are all these unknowns that when we were looking at the paper made us think that this team didn't have any juice to it. But they clearly are able to push things through. Alyssa Thomas is incredible. An incredible player. We wax poetic about her every single time we talk about her. So while I'm surprised that they're here at 3-1, I don't think I should be because they're getting really good play out of Satu Sabali as well, like you said, and she's healthy. So that is going to help them persevere in some of these tough games. Like the game they played yesterday against Washington was one of the worst games thus far, maybe the worst game of the season so far. Less than 50 points scored in the first half, but an exciting, gutty fourth quarter for Phoenix when they were about to lose it to Washington. So they can take command and play well as well. And I just want to mention, like, Seattle is surprising me as well early in the season. Like, their starting 5 has been playing impressive ball. Gabby Williams, very good player, very capable player. Nneka Ogwumike is maybe currently the most underrated player around the league. She's playing amazingly. She's playing all W level hoops. And, Ezzy Magbagor had a slow start, but she's played well against the Aces. And SD, like, what's not to say about SD? She's been incredible, running everything over there. And, there were questions about their depth, but I kind of think they have it figured out. Obviously, we would like more minutes for Dominique Malonga. I think the dunk is coming, but positive signs in Seattle as well. Yeah. And we don't need to talk about New York. They're just amazing. Tosh Cloud, amazing. And I think we can expect to see them up here for the lion's share of the season in the 1 or the 2 spot.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or Skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
So let's take a moment and go around the league because I just want to talk about really quickly some of the significant injuries that are happening, because today, as we got home from the beach, Caitlin Clark out at least 2 weeks with a quad injury. And of course, ESPN's already running articles like, does this jeopardize their season? Is it over?
No,
I don't think it does. I think you'll be fine. But it's, Caitlin didn't really have an injury last season. So this is like, okay, what did the pieces that Indiana added, will that help them get through this tough time? But, there's more significant things around the league. So I just want to take account for that.
Well, I will say, I'm actually excited to watch the Fever without Caitlin because she's not been playing very well the past 2 games.
Right.
But they still are running every single play through her. And she shoots a 3 and she misses it.
True.
Time and time again in these past 2 games.
Right.
So she's just been struggling a little bit. And we've seen other players that they added, like Dewana Bonner, who's barely been playing. So I'm excited to see what they can do when she's not on the court, and then perhaps how that can change what they do when she is on the court.
Right. I completely agree. So just to take stock, I'm going to go real quickly around the league. And if anything jumps out at you after I go through the list, just let me know. Jordan Canada, update on her knee injury. Fortunately, we're expecting to see her back middle of June for the Dream. So that's a very positive news, or a very positive injury note here. In Chicago, HVL is day-to-day with an ankle. In LA, Rakia Jackson has a concussion. She's day-to-day. Ray Burrell obviously is hurt with the knee. We expect to see her potentially at the end of June. And Cam Brink, there's been an update that she's expected sometime early June to come back from the ACL that she hurt last season. Already mentioned Caitlin. In Minnesota, we have Kayla McBride, who has been away for personal reasons, but like you mentioned earlier, is back with the team. Happy to see her on the bench with the squad. I expect her to play, if not in the next game, the game after that. In New York, Leonie Febish in the game against the Fever suffered a lower leg injury, and she's day-to-day. And Nayara Sabally as well is out day-to-day. Actually didn't list her injury, so I'm not exactly sure what she's dealing with. But tough to see that. In Phoenix, obviously, we've talked about Ka with her knee injury and Natasha Mack with her back injury. I expect Natasha Mack to be back soon, but still a little longer for Ka. In Golden State, Tiffany Hayes hurt her nose, and they're monitoring her nose injury. And then in Washington, you have Shakira Austin out with a concussion day-to-day. I'm currently playing that Shakira Austin, will she play, won't she play game in fantasy again this season. And I kind of wish I didn't necessarily play that card, but wishing Shakira gets back on the floor soon because Washington's been fun to watch. So anything jump out?
Okay. I mean, that's not as many as I thought there were going to be. I think,
and there are other injuries, but this is like the most significant ones that I felt like talking about.
Okay. I will say that's a lot of Sparks players.
Yes.
A lot of good, big Sparks players. So when they all come back, that will be, an interesting dynamic. I feel like the most impactful person is probably just Ka.
Yeah.
And we don't really have a timeline for her yet.
No, I think they expect her maybe end of June,
Okay.
like some of the other ones. She was 4 to 6 weeks after the knee scope. It's been about 2. So
Okay.
end of the month, hopefully. But yeah, it's just like important to note that like a lot of injuries to start the season.
Yeah, that always happens.
Correct. And I don't it's not going to be like an unrivaled situation where the injuries become overwhelming.
No.
But some teams are already in hardship mode because of the positions that they're in. So just worth it to take stock that some of these teams, after we talked about where they are in the standings, partially it's because of some of these injuries to some of their better players. Okay, one more topic to discuss today. We had the pleasure of being in the company of the great Dawn Staley the other night in North Philadelphia. She did an event for her new book, Uncommon Favor, and it was through, a local bookstore in the Philadelphia area called Uncle Bobby's. And it was an event that was probably 1,900 or so people in this big church in North Philadelphia. Being in her presence was incredible. Like, we're just kind of going to go loosey-goosey on this, but I do want to say that we're going to be sharing a really cool soundbite that we had about that Dawn said during this about the W. So pay attention for that. That's coming up in a little bit. But like, instant takeaway, her aura almost knocked me out.
Oh my gosh.
She's so cool. She's so cool. She's so funny.
Yeah.
She's so with it.
She's so just like real. She's so chill.
Yes.
She's so just like gonna tell you how it is. She's not like, she doesn't have time to like joke around. She's like, yeah, my players, their moms text me all the time. And I'm just telling them, sorry, your daughter didn't play well. And
You
it's
want to
like,
know why she
wow.
didn't get minutes? Because she wasn't good.
Right. So like, she's just trying to win and she's doing it. So yes, I loved being in the company of Dawn. It was very fun, like relaxed book chat.
Yeah.
There was a moderator talking, through her book and asked her a bunch of questions. Really, her book is pretty short, but it seems like it will be, kind of go through her upbringing. She talks a lot about her mother and how her mother has impacted her growing up. And, as she's become a coach, she talked about how she became a coach and how she never like expected herself to be a coach. But these people at Temple just like saw how good of a leader she can be and like just pushed her to become a coach, which is just like incredible. I love like how someone can just see that in you and you don't see it in yourself. Like it was just like her calling to become a coach. So like glad that she had the courage to follow that when no one else in the league was a coach at the same time they were a player. Like how did she think that she could do that? But she did.
Right.
So that was amazing. And then it goes through, her coaching style and how she comes to win in South Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also like she takes time to focus, at least she did at the event. And I assume there's an aspect of the book about it. She's, big time mental health advocate and all of that, and how she has struggled in her career with moments where she feels like she should be on the peak of the mountain. Like after she won her Olympic medal, she didn't know where she was supposed to go next. Like she told this little anecdote about how she was expected to be at training camp for the ABL, and they called her and they were like, hey, you need to come to practice. And she was like, I don't feel like it. Like I can't get there. I just played so much basketball. Like she was spent, and she took time off and she sought help as she advocates to anybody that's struggling. And she's, a better person because of it. And, you're right. So real to hear how she makes her decisions and how she's not afraid to talk about issues that she has with her players or their moms via text messages. It was really just something special. And the cool thing about the event was the moderator did take into account questions that were asked from people in the audience. You could submit questions ahead of time. And after we were talking about her coaching style, you hear it reiterated in the sound clip, but the question was, what if you took your coaching style and you brought it to Philadelphia and coached an expansion team of the WNBA? So here's what she said about that question.
Now listen to this.
Come on.
Y'all remember about 20 minutes ago, I said the 76ers, right? We are impatient. We are impatient fans. When you bring a WNBA franchise, there's some growing pains that come with it. Growing pains in the form of years. We're not built for that. But I do think Philly's ready. But timing is everything. Timing is everything. I do think in due time we will have a WNBA franchise. I think Martha Sykes is working, and her wife, they're working extremely hard to make that happen. And I'm helping them do that. Now, y'all, I don't want to come back to coach, okay?
That's fine.
I want ownership.
And now we're back. You've heard the audio. You've heard what she had to say. And we cut out a lot of it. It was like a minute straight of just applause and cheers when she was asked that question, because clearly the audience wanted it so bad. They wanted her to say, it's coming. The team is around the corner.
She can't say that.
No, but the fact that she says how hard Wanda Sykes and her wife are working on it, and that she's trying to help, I think is a very important thing to note. She's the most influential women's basketball coach, the highest paid.
Right.
She talked about that as well. And if you're putting Dawn's support behind it, that counts for something significant. So that was exciting. And, to hear her say that she wants to be an owner, not a coach. Now that people can, if you're listening to this, if you're theorizing that she's going to come to coach the W, throw that away, because she's not going to do that.
I was hoping, obviously, but that's fine. I don't need it.
Yeah.
As long as there's a team here, I don't really care who's the coach.
Correct. And if she's an owner, that's even cooler, because then she's just casually around.
Yeah. She'll still be coaching in South Carolina.
Right. I think that she'll be there
but in the off season.
Right. In the off season, just chilling. It was just an awesome event. And, we left there with 2 copies of her book signed by Dawn Staley, signed copies. We are 2 people. We have a bookshelf. We don't necessarily have room for 2 copies of Dawn's book.
We actually have 3 copies because I also pre-ordered a book before I knew we were going to this event.
Correct. So what we're going to do, we're going to be giving away one of Dawn's signed copies of Uncommon Favor to anybody that is wanting a copy. They can go to our Bluesky. There's going to be a post there. You'll see with everything that you need to do to be entered to receive the book, completely free, just for fun. We want somebody else who is as excited about Dawn Staley to have this book. So just go over to our Bluesky at ATBPod, give us a follow, like the post, do everything that it says, and then you'll be entered to potentially win the book. And we're excited to get that to somebody who can also read it with us. We're probably going to leave this open for about 2 weeks or so, and then we'll pick somebody and it'll be off in the mail. And then we can do a book club.
Yeah, we have heard people want to do a little book club. I would love to talk about it. I will say, Dawn, it was funny, the whole signing situation, because she said she wasn't planning on signing anything. But then she got to the venue a couple hours before the event, and she saw all the books stacked up, and she said, I can't come to Philly and not sign any of these books. So she stood there and signed 2,000 books right before the event. And there's like pictures of her signing them. Very cool. So sweet of her.
Yeah, she didn't have to do that. But now it's just so cool to like say that you have it. So very good on Dawn. She is exactly the person that I hope she was. And I'm just over the moon that we got an opportunity to see her. So great day.
Yep.
But that's going to do it for this episode of Attack the Baseline. Again, if you'd like to send us an email, you could do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or connect with us on Bluesky or Instagram at ATBPod. 5-star rating and reviews help us grow the show. Happy to continue to bring you WNBA content. We were this next week going to do the Indiana Fever as our first team to follow. However, that is not going to be the case now if Caitlin's hurt. So we're going to go dig into the schedule and figure out who our team is that we're going to be following for the upcoming week. But you'll find out whenever we post the next episode. But Kristen, anything else from you before we send this one off?
No, I'm excited to start going team by team. I think it's much easier to follow that way if you are struggling. Like, how am I supposed to keep up with all these games that are on? I would say, like, pick a team, watch them for a week, and then go to the next team. And you still, get the gist of who is who and what they're doing.
Right.
So one at a time. We don't have to go crazy here. We're just following, we're learning, and it's fun. And it's summer, and it's relaxing.
Yes.
So take it easy. If you have to just, watch the recaps, do that. No shame.
No shame. No shame. League Pass is $35. Go get League Pass if you don't have League Pass already. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Kristen, I am staring at the baseline. What are we going to do?
Attack it.
Attack the baseline. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back so soon with more WNBA hoops.